Hello, I'm Ben Quick, and joining me today is Damien Armour, Executive Director of the Epworth Freemasons Hospital. Damien, welcome.
Pleasure, thank you.
Damien, can you tell me about the relationship between Freemasons Victoria and what is now called the Epworth Freemasons Hospital?
Sure. Well, look, historically, of course, Freemasons Victoria was the owner of Freemasons Hospital and was for some 70 years or so until the sale of Freemasons Hospital to Epworth in May 2006. And I suppose the responsibility of Freemasons Victoria over that time was to, as the owner, was I suppose primarily to finance and appoint a board that oversaw the governance and running of the hospital in conjunction with the chief executives over time. But then in May 2006, when the sale took place, Epworth Healthcare overtook the responsibility of, I suppose, the running and governance of the hospital. But since that time, since the sale itself, whilst I suppose the formal ties were severed somewhat, I think the bond between Freemasons Victoria and Epworth Freemasons has continued to be quite strong, and there's a number of activities that sort of have taken place over the last 6 years or so that I think have only gone to strengthen that bond over time.
Why did you retain the name Freemasons when Epworth purchased the hospital?
Yeah, look, I think Epworth at the time recognised when the sale was going through that Freemasons over that 70 years had established a very strong reputation and brand, and I suppose firstly out of respect for the contribution that the Freemasons had made over that long period of time to healthcare in the state of Victoria, that the name would be retained. But I think they also recognised the fact that a strong brand had been established and a reputation for excellence in patient care in the hospital over a long period of time, but also that the hospital over that time had attracted some of the very well recognised and renowned surgeons and physicians across Victoria and that are well known throughout Australia, in fact, and they came and wanted to work at Freemasons Hospital. So I think out of respect and recognition for that strong brand, that Epworth made the right decision to retain the name.
Aside from the name, how is the Freemasons' legacy continued at the hospital?
I think in a number of ways, small and larger ways. The small things in terms of the retention, I suppose, of the logo, for example, in our front entrance. The square and the compass sort of sits proudly in the front entrance there. All the way through to things such as our courtyard of peace and harmony that's gone through a fundraising process where the pavers have been sold to Freemasons and their names put on them, and our courtyard of peace and harmony has essentially been refurbished and financed through that process for our patients, importantly, and our staff and their families to enjoy whilst they're here at the hospital. We've also recognised, I suppose, the history of the organisation. We still have the honour boards from the Freemasons Hospital that recognise donors and lodges that have contributed financially in the past, but it also recognises the chairman of the boards over the 70 years and the strong contribution that they've made over that period of time as well. And finally, I suppose, in a small way, Epworth is providing back to the Freemasons members themselves by maintaining the Masonic rebates. So Freemasons who may require treatment in our hospital are eligible for a rebate on their care should they require it. So I think that's a small contribution that Epworth's making in return.
What are some of the primary services provided by the hospital?
Yeah, I think Epworth is probably mainly known for our maternity service. We have a very strong maternity service that's been in operation now for over 21 years, located at 320 Victoria Parade. It would be recognised as one of the top 2 private maternity services in the state of Victoria. Last year we assisted 3,500 families bring a new child or two into the world. So that's an important contribution that we make and have established a very important and strong reputation in that regard. Our oncology services are also very well known throughout the state, and we have a strong reputation there, and we provide a breadth of oncology services from surgical oncology with breast oncology services, urological cancer surgery. We also have our medical oncology services with our chemotherapy unit over at 320 Victoria Parade, and we also have here our radiation therapy unit. So we provide the broad spectrum of oncology services. And then further to that, we have strong presence in just general surgery, surgicals in orthopaedics, in eye surgery, in gynecological surgery. We have a general medical unit to take care of patients that perhaps don't require surgery and require other medical conditions treated. And finally, we have a very strong 8-bed intensive care unit. So for those patients who require high acuity care, we've got a very well renowned 8-bed ICU unit that's available for patients should they require it.
Tell us about the Epworth Foundation.
The foundation itself is a part of the organisation that plays a very important role in the establishment and raising of funds to support the provision of care and I suppose, acquisition of equipment. We're a not-for-profit organisation, so any of our own surpluses go into providing those services, but also that whole process is assisted through the establishment of various fundraising activities that raise money that will refurbish parts of our hospitals, or that will purchase equipment that assists in the treatment of those patients, but also does other things such as support the provision of accommodation, for example, for radiation therapy patients that are coming from the country that perhaps can't quite afford the accommodation that's actually also required to stay in Melbourne when they might be coming from Warrnambool or somewhere else around the state, that those funds can actually be directed towards supporting those families and those patients in terms of being able to be accommodated in Melbourne and have their treatment here at the Radiation Therapy Centre.
Thanks very much, Damien, for enlightening our viewers on the very special relationship between Freemasons Victoria and the Epworth Freemasons Hospital.